Hi, and welcome to Hoffman's Hot Seat. I'm Tom Hoffman at 1-to-1 Media. Joining me today is Russell Keziere, Senior Director of Corporate Marketing at Pegasystems. Today, Russell and I will discuss how companies can use real-time analytics to learn more about their customers. Russell, thanks so much for joining us today.
My pleasure, Tom.
So, Russell, what are some ways in which companies can use real-time analytics to learn more about their customers?
Well, Tom, as you know, most companies already have built up some type of information about their customers. They have segmentation data, they've categorized their customers, they know their spending patterns, but none of that data warehouse, customer information, segmentation is real-time. And you see some really exciting and interesting examples of what companies are beginning to do. I think voice analytics, for example, taking a recorded call of a customer interaction and analyzing that voice, or text analytics, harvesting and detecting patterns and sentiments from within correspondence and written exchanges. Those are two examples, I think, that companies are beginning to use to basically say, what type of analytics can we get from a real-time conversation that we're not getting from our passive customer information data? And I think people are beginning to learn from those real-time analytics how they can improve customer service. But I think the other theory is that if you are focusing on real-time monitoring of any type of customer conversation, there's all sorts of examples. For example, in the retail industry, we've been monitoring real-time customer behavior in the stores as they move through the aisle and gathering information as they purchase items and bring them off the shelf. And leveraging RFID data has led to some pretty interesting bits of real-time data that people have used to alter planograms and change the way the store looks. And we're also seeing location-based real-time analytics from companies like Groupon that are trying to use GPS and location data to do a better job of getting a real-time view of their customer.
Can you share with us, Russell, also how decision makers can use the information they gather from real-time analytics to help shape marketing and business strategies?
Well, that's where the story gets a little trickier, because you can create vast amounts of data, some of it real-time and some of it passive transaction data. But the question is, how do you put it in the hands of your business stakeholders to make something of it? And the current best practice is to take all the real-time data and turn it into retroactive or passive data. In other words, we can gather real-time information, but then we treat it in the same way that we treat customer information in the data warehouse. And you require a statistician and a quant and someone who knows the high-end tools to create propensity models and real-time interactive models in order to make it work. One of the things that we're doing here at Pega is we believe that you need to put the decision in the hands of the people who are responsible for the business outcomes. And we're not alone in this, but we're one of the leaders in providing what we call a model factory, whereby people who are in the business in the front line, merely by knowing their customers and their products and their markets, can use the tool directly and immediately to guide how the predictive models will work in real time. Because it's one thing to capture real-time analytics, it's another to actually have the analytics support a real-time customer conversation. And this is, I think, really one of the areas where people are seeing tremendous returns, and we're certainly seeing that from our customer base. And talking to some of the customers, they claim it's like having this wise person on their shoulder making recommendations to them as they engage with the customer and having a conversation with that customer and guiding the interaction to a positive outcome. And we think that that's probably one of the more exciting uses of real-time analytics for customer service and customer interaction.
Thanks. That sounds like a great application. So, Russell, can you also point to a few examples of companies that you feel are really excelling at their use of real-time analytics?
I would point to the companies, the industries that we're serving in financial services, insurance and banking, in telecommunication industries. They're really taking and making good use of this technology. Something that we've coined here at Pega is something that we call next best action. And you see that popping up everywhere. If you do see it, it's something that we came up with that basically goes back to that wise counselor sitting on your shoulder giving you good advice, is offering the next best action. What should be the next thing that we suggest or recommend to the customer? And very frequently, it's not necessarily an offer, because you might have real-time data about the customer's fatigue for offers, and they may have already accepted an offer. And perhaps the best thing to nurture a net promoter score is to not aggressively pursue an upsell at this point in the customer conversation. Perhaps the best thing you can do to nurture the goodwill and the loyalty of that customer is to basically encourage a service orientation rather than an upsell. That would be the next best action. So it's not just the next best offer, it's the next best action. So if you look at banks, for example, we've got a survey of some leading banks that are using this approach, and they see when they do take this next best action approach, their offer rate, where customers are accepting an offer that's being made either online in a self-service customer web environment or on the call center, of 3x improvement in offer acceptance. And that is a tremendous increase in terms of the bank's ability to improve their offer rate. Their acceptance rate can go up to as high as 60% in the call center, with about a 2.5% increase in the accept rate on the website. So those are tremendous volumes of new business that the bank is able to aggregate. And when you look at the decision volumes that some of these financial services institutions are doing, they get up to like 10 billion recommendations and decisions a year channeling through the different systems that they're serving. So there's a lot of real-time analytics serving customer retention and loyalty in financial services, for one example. And another example is actually quite interesting. Just recently we came up with a different use of the technology for collections management. So perhaps you're trying to collect on unpaid credit card debt, but the propensity models and the real-time analytics can tell you, as you're having the customer conversation, that you have a higher degree of probability of collecting 15 cents on the dollar than 20 or 25 cents on the dollar. And by offering that recommendation in real time to the agent who is having the conversation right now with the customer, leads to a much happier conversation with the customer. So the customer feels good. The customer feels like you understand his or her needs and situation. And you feel good because you're able to achieve a higher degree of success in claiming on those collections and on those debts than you would have had otherwise. So I think that's another really cool example.
Okay, great. Well, thanks for sharing those, Russell, and thank you again for sharing your insights with us today about the use of real-time analytics.